Hello everyone, my name is Avraham Bar-Av, Bentata. I want to speak with you today about the paradox of our life in this amazing city of Cairo. I was born in 1941 in Cairo. Since 1949, we live in Israel. I am an author. The most important book that I ever wrote is this one. It's called Rehov Sheikh Hamza 17 Cairo. Later on, it was translated into English. The name is Sheikh Hamza Street, 17 Sheikh Hamza Street, Cairo. It became a bestseller on Amazon. In this book, I tell the story of the full story of our family in Egypt from welcome AHLAN and SAHLAN in 1909 until the brutal expulsion in 1949. This is an old map, 1913, of Cairo. Here is Shara Sheikh Hamza, where we live, right in the middle of Cairo, between Aberdeen Palace and the museum, and in walking distance from what is now Midan El Tahrir and the great bridge Castle Nil. Here is the zone of Babeluk, where all my aunts and cousins and uncles lived. Here is the Shara Antikana, where my grandmother lived. All of us in walking distance from one another. We were all together. We enjoyed a very good life in Egypt, in freedom. We felt freedom and safety. This is how we looked at, all dressed European style, in the hot climate, totally unsuitable to the hot climate of Cairo. But this is how we looked at, very honorable, very respected. We had freedom, social freedom, religious freedom. Even we could attend, my father, not me, I was a child, he could attend Zionist activities, Zionist clubs. That's where he met my mother, and so they got married. From time to time, we went out. Going out meant dressing up like Parisians, fancy dresses, fancy hats, totally unsuitable to the hot climate. I remind you that there was no efficient deodorants, and no air conditioning. Look how the Arabs, with the wind flowing from the leaves and from underneath, and look at these, they look like tourists. Not only we looked like tourists, we even acted like tourists. We didn't speak the language. When we spoke between us, we spoke French. I attended a French school. I learned French literature. I learned French history. We had our own newspaper. The name is Israel. It was published in 3 languages, English, French, and Arabic. Everything was written. Even the activities of my father as a Zionist activist, everything was in the newspaper. It was all in the open. In summer, we left Cairo. It was too hot, and rented a home in Alexandria or in Port Said, near the seashore, enjoying the seashore. This is my father, my mother, and this is small guy in the middle. It's me, and with the maid. We took her with us wherever we went. She lived with us in our home. She slept in one of our rooms. And then, all of a sudden, boom, out of the blue, the blow. 1948 war shattered everything. My father was, as a Zionist activist, he was taken to a detainee camp in the desert. My grandmother had to leave her apartment. Here's the military evacuation order. Here is the newspaper announcement that they had to leave the apartment within 48 hours. That's it. Our life was finished in Cairo. The only way to liberate my father from the detainee camp in Hackstep was to buy a one-way ticket out of Egypt to Brindisi and then to Israel. As a child, I made up a small paper boat and drew all the family on it, and this is how I played 1 or 2 weeks before we left Egypt. I was 8 years old. Writing this book, I asked myself a very difficult question. How could we lead such a luxury life in a poor, ultra-poor environment? How could we be proud being Egyptian and yet dress and behave like European tourists? How could we feel so much at home and safe and all together, hardly speak Arabic, of course not read Arabic and write Arabic, adopt the French as a language and mother tongue? That's it. What I want to tell you now, I am nearing 80 years old. I can still feel in my veins the flow of the Egyptian memories. Under the skin, I can feel the amazing wind of Cairo, the city of my birth. I still feel very warm feelings for Cairo, in spite of everything that happens. And it's not only me. Ask every ex-Egyptian and he will tell you the same. Cairo remains in our heart forever and ever. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.